board with a wide range of experience. In addition to 3 other PTechs that were registered, certified, there were 2 transfers from Alberta. This is done under the Agreement on Internal Trade Agreement, that is a federal agreement, so it's an administrative transfer. We recognize PTechs from Alberta as being equal to, substantially equal to our PTechs here. So at the moment there are approximately 20 applications that are ready for processing, and there are about 40 applications that are underway online but have not yet been submitted. There's interest on the part of members in considering PTech registration. Is tremendous interest. I'll now turn back to Keith for a comment on some recent developments which point to the need to look closely at the specific requirements to achieve PTech certification.
Thanks, Charles. We were in discussions with APEG through the joint board to talk about PTech to NGL guidelines here. APEGBC members of the joint board presented ASTTBC with a proposal to provide a special pathway for PTechs to move to the APEGBC limited license or NGL designation. In response, ASTTBC Council has advised the ASTTBC APEGBC joint board that ASTTBC is interested in pursuing this idea. Sorry for all the acronyms, people. We are at the early stages with this proposal and hope to learn more this summer. ASTTBC and APEGBC staff are looking at the differences between the requirements for PTech certification and the limited license requirements. It is anticipated that ASTTBC and APEGBC will work together to define the pathway for PTech to NGL. This could lead ASTTBC to consider changes to the current certification requirements and policies to better position the PTech to move seamlessly to the limited license. We touched on Alberta and the Alberta model, so I'm going to touch about PTech portability with Alberta. In addition, with the second matter requiring ASTTBC's attention, the CEOs of Alberta's technologists and engineers advised ASTTBC of their concern that there is not direct alignment between ASTTBC's requirements for PTech and the Alberta model. ASTTBC Council is taking this seriously and has asked staff to consider the differences between the 2 models and make recommendations. Based on our first look at the 2 models, there are not substantial differences between Alberta and BC. Should ASTTBC seek to align completely with the Alberta model, it will not be a huge change to current certification requirements. ASTTBC Council has authorized the CEO, the ASTTBC CEO, to advise the CEOs from Alberta and that of ASTTBC is considering a model similar to that in Alberta. Given these 2 special opportunities, the PTech Certification Board will not approve additional PTech registrations until clear direction is defined. I ask that you keep an eye on the ASTTBC website and read ASTT e-news for updates. And I now turn it back over to John for the first question.
Well, thanks, Keith. There's certainly a lot going on with the PTech certification, the implementation, and you'll be hearing more about that through the e-newsletter and other communications. As indicated at the start of the webinar, we are asking a few questions as we go along. So this first question, do you anticipate applying for PTech certification and registration, is now posted, and we would ask you to signal your response. And we've got about 15, a maximum of 30 seconds for you to provide that response. Once all of the responses are in, the software will load the responses up, and we'll all be able to see those responses. So just waiting for you. I might add, as we're waiting, that we're now sitting at 129 individuals registered with us this afternoon. And Ben just advises me that number jumped up to 140. we're just going to close off that question. And we're going to share with you the response. So we have 30% indicating definitely interested in pursuing. As you can see, probably 15%, 36% possibility, and so on. So thank you very much for that. Again, for those who have participated in webinars in the past, this kind of response helps to frame council discussion and the work that staff does. We do appreciate the feedback. And now we'll proceed to the next slide to talk a little bit about phase 2 of the PTech implementation. And the first is to say a little bit about practice rights. And as a reminder for everybody, we just want to indicate that over the years, ASTT has been modestly successful in acquiring for our members the rights to independent practice. Some of this recognition has been granted over the years and acquired for ASCTs, CTechs, and a number of technical specialists. And as you can imagine, this work continues and will be ongoing into the future. And Keith has mentioned that the PTech implementation is the first phase and the professional designation. We are looking, of course, to including within the general rights that have been acquired for the ASCT. Those rights do not, of course, are not extinguished, in fact, carry forward to the PTech. And again, want to stress that further development of the qualified professional recognition is being worked on a regular basis through the work of the staff. One of the questions that we will be looking at is that of where we position the PTech in terms of independent rights and how that might compare with an ASCT going forward. The Council last night had some discussions on this, and we anticipate that Council will be looking at this question and many others this September when they meet again. During the course of our work, and again not new to members who track our development, that the ASTT Act, which was brought into force in 1985, does need some changes, and certainly as we move forward with the PTech, we will be looking to government to assist us in updating our regulatory legislative framework. Now, we're also mindful that we have an election coming in May of 2017. This is a reality, and as such, we estimate that the likeliest early date for consideration of any legislative change would be 2 years out, probably in 2018, but it could even be further than that. So it's, we're mindful of the legislative timetable, and that's certainly going to be factored into our work as we move forward. Both with seeking changes to the ASTT Act, but also working within the current regulatory framework. As ASTT works along this path, and we will be engaging others with mutual interest, so other groups that have a common interest in, at a very high level, of enabling the BC's workforce, a very high level simple goal is simply to make sure that BC workers are in a position to offer their services within their competencies. One of the ways that ASTT has helped to frame the kind of work that our members do is to develop practice guidelines. A number of guides, if you haven't been to our website, you'll find a number of guides posted on the ASTT website. These guides are dated at this point in time, and they have been the focus of some discussion both within ASTT, but also looking at it with the ASTT APEGBC Joint Board. In fact, one of the primary objects of the Joint Board is to look at opportunities for recognition and practice for senior technologists. This Joint Board has considered the ASTT practice guides, and together we're pleased to report, and we did mention this in the last webinar, that the APEGBC and the ASTT councils have now approved the Electrical Technology Services for Building Projects Guide. 2 other guides are being worked on by staff and some volunteers. One is in mechanical systems and the other related to fire safety protection. We anticipate others will be considered by the joint board. Keith's already mentioned one of the other key areas that has come to our attention thanks to APEGBC early this year. They talked to us about finding a pathway, kind of a special pathway for the PTech to achieve their NGEL. Again, we're going to continue to keep you posted as that develops. ASTT Council, as noted earlier, will be looking at that in the fall. So another opportunity for you to jump in, and that's with question number 2. Up on your screen, do you agree that ASTT should continue to look for opportunities where ASTT members can provide independent services within their competencies? Yeah, maybe that's a little self-evident, but we continue to test the water with members just to make sure that we're on track, that we've got your viewpoints, that we've got your perspectives as we continue along this pathway of professional recognition, whether it's recognition as an employee, and most of our members generally work for someone else as opposed to offering independent services, but this added recognition helps across the board. So we've got 79, 80% have now voted. It shows just where we're at in terms of the voting record. We'll give you a couple of more minutes and then we'll close this one off and look at the results. All right, let's close that off. Thank you very much. So we've got 73% either agreeing or strongly agreeing. Oh, sorry, I can't count. 93%. That's my eyes, I think. Ben. So 93% either strongly agreeing or agreeing on that question. We're now going to move to hear a little bit more about some of the developments with regard to our technical specialists, and we're going to ask Charles to jump in on that.
Some mandatory reporting. Okay, here we go. We're looking here at some of the mandatory reporting issues here that are needed as well. And in January 2015, ASTTBC Council approved a continuing professional development policy that requires members to record CPD activity. Auditing of that compliance to the policy is possible. We can go in and we can take a look and see who has been entering information in their record. The policy dealing with the auditing of CPD reporting by all members will likely emerge over the next 18 months. While it's too early to say exactly when, it's anticipated that a formal auditing of all members will commence somewhere just before 2020. That's 3 years or so from now. In addition to the policy development, ASTTBC will need to have in place a robust software package that will enable auditing with relative ease and limited staff time to implement that. Software is now in the process of being developed and it should be in place next year for some trial testing. It's possible that ASTTBC will start a soft launch of the auditing program in 2018. Now, John, it's back to you for question number 3, apparently.
Oh, thanks, Charles. And it's always good to stay on top of things in terms of what the next slide looks like, isn't it? So question number 3 relating to auditing, and thanks for that update on where we're at with CPD. So the question is, do you agree that ASTT should be formally auditing members to assure compliance with the policy requiring mandatory reporting of CPD? It's interesting to note across the country as different associations develop CPD policies. Keith and I were back in Ontario recently. I don't know, Keith, just a quick comment with Ontario coming on board with CPD?
Yeah, I think it's an important step moving forward. If we're trying to be considered a professional association, that our members are held to the highest standards. And it's nice to see Ontario coming on board as well, and I'm looking forward to other associations taking the initiative that ASTTBC has already achieved. So, but do we have stats, or are you closing off?
Yeah, we've got 80% have now responded. Maybe give it another second or two.
Okay.
I should add too that, as Keith has indicated, Ontario's come on board the Alberta Association with their new legislation. That was one of their requirements. So that's been, what, Keith, 3 years?
Yeah, it's been 3 years since the PTech was enabled in Alberta. So yeah, there's provinces that are moving forward, and luckily we're on the pathway as well.
Absolutely. All right, so we closed that off and posted, and I'm going to get closer to the, so that I can see this. 18% strongly agree, 44% agree, 25% undecided. So a total of 62% have indicated either agreement or strong agreement with that. And certainly you'll be hearing a lot more about this as we move forward in terms of the implementation of auditing of CPD. Just to remind you that ASTT members are required to report CPD, and there is a website that's been set up for you to do that. It's relatively easy to use, and so we'd encourage you to have a look at the website, take a look at the policy and the points, and begin using that site to record your CPD. And now we will move to talking a little bit more about technical specialists. Mr. Joyner.
All right, thank you. Well, I'm going to focus on mainly 4 different areas of technical specialist groups: house inspection, on-site wastewater, fire protection, and underground utility locators. So on the house inspection side, there's been an awful lot of changes. The BC government is moving to a new licensing model. An order in council for the new home inspection regulation was signed, I believe it was March 2016. But the most significant components are not going to be taking effect until September the 1st. The ministry responsible and Consumer Protection BC are now working to prepare for both the September 1 implementation date and for the final phase of the review, which will see more changes scheduled for March 2017. Information is being sent directly from the ministry regarding the changes, and from CPBC is also, they're contacting licensed inspectors directly regarding the changes that are coming up on September the 1st. The new regulations, a major change that's coming into effect will be direct responsibility of CPBC for evaluating and licensing inspectors, which means that both current licensees and new applicants for licenses will no longer be required to hold or continue a membership with an association to be eligible for a license. However, applicants will still have to complete the education and field training components to be eligible. The requirements in this area are essentially unchanged from those currently in place, particularly those that ASTTBC has. There will also be requirements for errors and omissions in comprehensive general liability insurance, just as there are now. The competency standards for inspection scope of practice have also been undergoing some review and revision. And the final phase of review is underway with a report from the consultant that's leading this due by the end of the year. The scope of practice has been drafted, in which the consultant has attempted to define common ground across the industry. Following from the standards of scope of practice, will be a set of competencies required by an inspector to work to the SOP. ASTTB's direct involvement into the future. We look forward to continuing to assist in moving house inspection toward recognition as a professional activity. ASTTBC will continue to be the only legislated professional association for home inspectors. And ASTTB will also continue to advance the value it provides to licensed inspectors. Insurance will continue to be required, and insurance is available through ASTTB's group plan at very attractive rates. We also have in place some field training and assessment practices that are highly regarded and will continue. Something else that's new will be a comprehensive exam that may be required, and we'll have such an exam ready by September the 1st. There'll be a minimum standard set for home inspections, but there appears to be nothing to stop inspectors from doing more, obviously doing more than the minimum. That standard is yet to be 100% defined. So maybe we can go to the next one, which is the next slide, which is on-site wastewater. The next group is on-site wastewater. Major achievement in 2014-2015, a couple of years it took for this, was the development and delivery of workshops on the new standard practice manual. 13 sessions were delivered in 11 communities and well attended and well received. There are now 10 live webinars were hosted, and these are now all available on the ASTTBC website, the on-site wastewater section of that website, and it becomes a learning resource that's posted for excellent CPD opportunities and development of our on-site wastewater practitioners. Practice assessment reviews is something else that's been talked about. The policy's been in place for about a year, and the mechanism to set up practice assessment reviews in a very logical and well-organized fashion is now ready, and we're about to launch into the more standardized, if you wish, practice assessment review, and it'll be get going very, very soon. We have about 150 on-site wastewater practice assessment reviews to do. That's 150 practitioners that require a practice assessment review on-site, and we're hoping to begin and eat away or gradually do these PARs on the practitioners. Standardized filings is another. We work in cooperation with the health authorities, and standardizing across the 6 health authorities is something we've been striving for. Good progress as ASTTBC has worked with these health authorities. Some areas need a little more attention, such as the content and the scope of filings, and examples of model filings, etc., could be posted on our website. System maintenance, that's on-site wastewater system maintenance, is a real issue, and the maintenance of systems is a priority for all stakeholders, obviously the homeowner as well. Several initiatives by regional districts to promote maintenance through bylaws have been initiated, and ASTTB seeks to increase those providing services in this area, that is, certified people as maintenance providers in this area, to ensure standard of competency and practice is maintained. The next area of technical specialist is the fire protection area, and standards for registration are being enhanced with defined competencies, and that's still, we continue to work on that a little bit. And there are also practice assessment reviews that should be starting in the fall of 2016. We also have available a database of courses and workshops and other types of activities that could lead to certification, and including the challenge exams that we have online now. ASTTBC is also looking at the area of construction fire safety plans. That's construction fire safety in new construction. Recent fires in, I think it was Port Alberni, also in White Rock, highlighted the need of this. And training in construction fire safety planning is being proposed, and certification endorsement may evolve. Fire companies in the metro area, actually Lower Mainland area, met earlier this year and expressed their interest in pursuing some form of quality assurance recognition through ASTTBC. It's the early days for this concept of trying to organize the fire protection companies. There'll be more news on that later. Next slide is slide 14, and that's the underground utility locators. It's a new certification program that's been developed in partnership with the Common Ground Alliance, you know, call before you dig kind of thing. and other stakeholders. The policy has been approved, the board has been appointed, applications have been accepted, and it's moving along very nicely. Cooperating with various agencies in promoting the program is also underway, and CPD opportunities are being offered. I think I'm going to turn it over to Jason now because I can't talk anymore.
Okay. Just before you do, Jason, I'm looking at the clock here, it's John Leach again, and I just wanted to touch base to take a couple of questions. So these are questions that individuals have sent in. Thank you very much for that. We're now sitting at 150 registrants. The first question has to do with PTech to ASCT, and the question is the only route through to PTech by way of ASCT?
Yes.
Short answer.
How's that, people? Yes.
Yes, but don't forget now our certification policy is based on competencies, and one can go in and try and do an application for ASCT comparing the competencies they have with the requirements for certification. And our Board of Examiners and our field trial reviewers are using these competencies as a means to certainly look at recognition of prior learning that can be learned through life and work experience and through all the CPD activities that people with 15 years of experience that are still in the business, they must keep current, otherwise it just doesn't, they won't be employed. Let's put it that way. So we are starting to recognize that recognition for prior learning and experiential learning that you learn on the job.
And this is a laddering process going from a CTech to an ASCT. Once you achieve your ASCT, then your application can begin to the PTech, meeting the criteria for the PTech. Is that true, Charles?
Yes, it is, absolutely, absolutely.
So thank you very much for your question.
Yes, thank you very much. Joel Giffen asked the question about why both PTech and Angel, making reference also to the Alberta model. Anyone you want to?
Well, currently the model that's set up in Alberta, having your PTech, is a rights to practice within Alberta. With the PTech within BC currently, we're looking at the designation only, but working within the joint board structure with APEGBC to come up with ideas of areas of competency and hopefully strive towards rights to practice for our PTech members once they are registered with the minimum requirements through our registration component. I mean, we're at an early stage where if you look at Alberta, they've had the PTech with rights to practice for over 3 years now. We are looking at the same, I should say similar model to their structure in regards to the requirements, the minimum requirements to achieve that. So we are working with APEGBC right now, and hopefully that we will get an agreement in the near future.
Thanks, Keith, and thanks, Joel, for the question. Edsel Escala, Edsel, I might add, is a member of the ASTT Council, asked a question about earthquake technology practice and whether or not that might be a new field that ASTT might consider. Keith, maybe just a quick...
I guess what it comes down to, Edsel and the rest, I have a rights to practice through the Angel program through fire suppression systems. The seismic requirements are actually part of fire suppression, so we have to be keenly aware of the requirements for seismic bracing in regards to that. But there is technology or engineering portions that only deal with seismic requirements. Would we look at it? It is a possibility, but it would have to go through minimum standards and requirements through that aspect.
It might also be fair to say, picking up on this, and it's one of those, because I think I'm correct in saying that there are many disciplines where earthquake preparedness and knowledge around earthquake requirements, design, etc., is part of the, it spans many of the engineering technology fields.
Yeah, there's mechanical, electrical, fire suppression, structural, civil.
Yeah.
So it all encompasses all of them, but it is an option to look forward to.
Yep, no, we appreciate it, so thank you very much for that. Two other ones. One's a quick one. Hamid, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Hamid. You asked the question as to whether or not this webinar counts for CPD. The answer is
Yes.
yes.
How much CPD?
Yes, yes.
That's right.
Do I get CPDs for talking?
Oh, yeah, we'll give you extra CPD.
Excellent, thank you.
You don't need them.
Whatever.
So the other last question that is up here is from Stuart Evans about house inspection. And it's a question about if you do not need to be a member of an association going forward, how do you mete out discipline action? So if a formal complaint comes in and you're either a member of ASTT or not a member of ASTT, this could apply to many individuals on this line, not just in house inspection, but Charles, maybe a quick comment on that?
Well, it's an excellent question, first of all, and one that our practice review board has also considered very seriously and has some great concerns about. The model that's being put in place right now, it works apparently for one of the regulatory or regulated professions or occupations, and I believe that the consumer protection and the ministry people that are developing the model for house inspection is being very, very closely inspired by this other particular group, who I will not even mention what they are, but that they seem to think it works there. But our practice review board and also others that have been looking at some of the ramifications of this change to house inspection are concerned about the complaint process and how it's going to be handled. All complaints will be going through Consumer Protection BC. What they do with them is something that is yet to be seen. Hope that answers it a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
It's
Thank you very much.
Work in progress.
Yeah, thank you very much, Charles. Getting back on track, over to Jason Jung to talk a little bit about labor market studies.
Okay, thanks, John. Good afternoon, everybody. Labor market, ASTTBC has been actively involved with other stakeholders in tracking and preparing papers on the skills supply and demand question, which is on everyone's mind. Last fall, we released a major labor market information, or LMI, report. It was a joint venture between ASTTBC, APEGBC, the Association of Consulting Engineering Companies of BC, and it was managed by an organization called the Asia Pacific Gateway Skills Table. But it dovetails nicely with the BC government's work on LMI. You should check out their BC Jobs Plan and Blueprint documents on the Ministry of the JTST website, and you'll notice a number of areas on those blueprints that ASTTBC is actively involved with. Technology Professionals Canada, of which ASTTBC is one of 4 member associations, commissioned the Conference Board of Canada to prepare a report on the contribution of technology professionals to Canada's economy. And I'll just maybe cite a few brief snippets of what came out of that report, indicating that about 54.7 billion is their contribution to the Canadian economy. Over 6 billion of that is our contribution to the BC economy, and the growth in the number of practitioners is about 3.5% versus a 1.7% average of all fields. And an interesting note here too is that the salaries are about 20% higher for technologists than the national average. So that's just a small snippet of the labor market information. Again, asking you to visit the ASTTBC website, where we do have links to that information, which is maybe of interest to you. I'm going to turn it over to Karen Taylor to talk about meetings and services.
Thanks, Jason. Hi, everyone. We're going to take a few minutes to review a number of meetings, events, and services that are being offered at ASTTBC, starting with the AGM that was recently held on May 27th. It was a great success. Registrations for this event totaled close to 200 participants. A total of 75 attended the AGM by webinar, and 38 attended the morning panel discussion on professional practice. So a great big thanks to everyone who participated. Next is CPD listings. A number of CPD offerings to ASTTBC continues to grow and are posted on our website on a regular basis. Our target for 2016 is to increase our listings by 25% over 2015. This concerted effort is for increasing the number of listings is tied to the policy on mandatory reporting of CPD. So take a look at the CPD listings, go on our website, and see what's available for you. Tech Jobs. Tech Jobs are a job posting service, and it's getting a new face on the website. A new software will be launched soon, and that will make job searching a much more efficient and effective process. Watch for details on this on upcoming issues of ASTTBC e-News. Another new program is called Employer Pro, and this will be launched this summer. This will be a new site which will provide employers to market and showcase themselves to our members by way of job postings, branding, and eventually for advertising of their services. This new program will enhance connectivity between employers and ASTTBC members. So again, we will be engaging with members via email and ASTTBC e-News. Unfortunately, we don't have time to get into the details of the many activities ASTTBC was involved with National Engineering and Geoscience Month. So you are encouraged again to please go to our website and check out what we were involved with during the month of March. As well, we will be unveiling a new look for e-News later this summer. Included will be new sections to help navigate readers to storylines in a more effective manner. Another big achievement in March was the BC Government Proclamation of Technology Skills Appreciation Week. This was the week that was declared to recognizing the valuable contribution people working in technology skills trades make to the province's economy and labor force. So thanks goes to Minister of Jobs and Tourism Skills Training Shirley Bond and MLA Greg Kelo for their leadership in getting this off the ground. And this is just another first for ASTTBC. And lastly, Canada 150. Canada turns 150 in 2017, and ASTTBC will be involved. We hope to be making a major announcement later this week or early next week on this event, but we will also be looking for to you, our members, for ideas on how our association can celebrate Canada's 150 years. Again, follow up in e-News, and this concludes an overview of our meetings and services. So I'll hand it over to John for question number 4.
Thanks very much, Karen. Lots on the go. Number 4 question, would you be inclined to participate in a webinar dealing with a technical subject in your field or soft skills topic? So again, what we're trying to gauge here is just the general level of interest in utilizing webinars as a vehicle for getting information out to the membership. And of course, the beauty of a webinar, if you do it over lunch hour like we're doing today, hopefully it doesn't intrude too much into the day, the work of the day, and no matter where you are in the province, or for that matter globally, you're able to participate. So if we can take just another couple seconds to finish that off. We've got 75%, 73% voted. Thank you very much for coming online with those questions and your responses. I think we're at 80%. Hope everyone's has figured out how to work the voting, and that's going, it seems fairly well. Let's close that off. So you can see fairly strong support, as you kind of might expect, I guess, 79% indicating a high degree of probability of participating in a webinar. So thank you very much for that feedback. Let's move on now to a little conversation around ASTTBC's presence. No surprise to those on the line that ASTT works hard to build its presence with other key stakeholders across the province. In particular, our efforts all in lead to a greater value for ASTT professional registration and to your membership. To help us better do that, we've got a new web site up and running, and I think that its presence or its look and feel is much more attractive and easier to manage than previously. As mentioned already, the ASTTE News will get a new look. We were anticipating it might have been June. We were now advised that we're looking at July for the new look. In the June e-News, you'll see a little bit of change with some major headers that helps to group the different items that are in the newsletter. We've been seriously ramping up on social media for those of you who are active on the various social media platforms, and we're certainly very, very pleased with the results that we've achieved to date. Obviously, a lot more to be done in this area. But we are making, we think, some pretty good progress in utilizing those tools to get our message out. Likewise, we've been doing some video productions, not new to ASTTBC. Over the years, we've experimented and will continue to do that, and you can anticipate more short vignettes that help to describe who we are and what we do. All about ASTT's presence and our kind of look and feel of the organization, and in particular, not only with members, of course, but with other stakeholders. So let's move on to the next slide, and Keith Trulson's going to talk about council governance.
Thanks, John. Council governance sounds a little boring, but it's actually not. We are here to serve our members. We hold 5 meetings a year, have a lot of discussions based on the direction of the association and where we're going at this stage. PTech is one example of that initiative going forward. But what we want to do is try to provide an open and transparent governance model to our association. So as reported with the last update, ASTTBC Council is looking at ways to be more open to the members and the public. For this, council minutes have been posted on the website for some time now. If you need to go back, just type in the area of or the month that you were looking for, and then it should pop up. All complaints and the disposition of the complaints are posted up on the website. Now looking at ways to broaden our efforts to be a little bit more open. So we are experimenting with open council meetings via webinar, very similar to this discussion that we're having today. More work is needed on this front before going live on a regular basis. There's a lot of IT issues that we need to work out. The agenda for council meetings will be posted at some point, likely in 2017. This will give people the knowing what we're going to be discussing at each council meeting. And we welcome your suggestions at any time. ASTTBC Council has a big job with important responsibilities, and it is essential that we are open and that we tell our story. So thank you very much, and we'll turn this over to John for question number 5.
Great, thanks, Keith. And maybe just before doing that, picking up a couple of comments that have come in, Larry Walsh wanted to know whether or not PTechs need more CPD points than an ASCT, CTech, or a Tech Spec, for example.
The answer is no. The policy applies to all, whether you're a technical specialist or an ASCT, CTech, or PTech, or an RT manager. The requirement is an average of 20 CPD points per year.
Super, thank you. And I think one of the other things, Charles, is that we are looking closely at what others are doing in terms of their point system, and we may make some minor tweaks in order to achieve greater alignment.
Correct. So what we're doing, that policy has been in place now for about 2 years, and we're going to be having a review this summer to clarify. There are some areas where it's a bit confusing. One of them is, for example, are we a learned society? And that along with a number of other descriptors in there about what you're getting CPD points for and how many points you receive for various initiatives. It's going to be looked at this summer.
Great.
and review.
Super, thanks very much. Let's go to question number 5. Would you be inclined to log into a council meeting by webinar, and the council meetings usually last about 90 minutes. I should add that as background information that the council usually meets formally at 4 o'clock on a Thursday, and the dates, I'm not sure the dates have been posted actually in the past. We'll have to check that out, and if not, we'll make sure that's done.
Yeah, it's just posted to council members themselves.
Yeah, so there's something we can do as we move along that path. So if you can respond to that question, and while I'm doing that, I'm sure it was with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek and a reminder that we do live, in fact, in a global community, and that people may be jumping in on this webinar from other places in the world. For example, on the other side of the Rockies, where it's not lunchtime, according to Steve Jackson. So Steve, thanks for that. We appreciate every helpful hint. All right, so let's see how we're doing. We got 81% voted so far on that one. I think that's fairly consistent with those who are voting today, so let's close that off. And you can see the results there in terms of response, with 8% indicating definitely, 20% probably, 31% possibly. So we've got about 60% indicating that there's some possibility that they might be inclined to jump in on a council meeting.
I was just thinking of the C-SPAN experience, where you would turn on the TV to watch C-SPAN, and that's the kind of information that you get, is just the direction of where we're at and where we're going. So
there you go. All right, so we're just about ready to wrap up. We're looking for your suggestions for future topics, for future webinars. We certainly continue the update webinars. At the moment, we're on a 3 times a year cycle. We certainly can look at other major subject areas that can be addressed in these webinars. It's always a challenge, given 10,000 plus members, just what it is that we cover off. And we'll do our best to mix it up a bit so that there's something new each time we log in. We do have one other question for you today before we close out. Question number 6. Will you likely log into another ASTT update webinar? So you can take a couple of seconds on that one. And we're just looking at our clock, coming up to 3 minutes to 1 o'clock. I'll just double check here to see if there's any
2 o'clock if you're not.
couple of suggestions in terms of looking forward. We've got Marlon Fisher, indicating that it's a bit of a distance to Brazil. So if I'm reading between the lines, that you're calling in or logging in from Brazil. Thank you for doing that. Larry Walsh has just jumped in again and tossing out ideas in terms of gathering ideas for future consideration and discussion.
Perfect.
Norma Jean Adsick says, I appreciate the webinar. Communications is live in Northern BC. Thank you for your efforts to include out-of-town members. Thank you for that comment. We really do appreciate it. And let's close off that. 57% definitely, 32% probably. So we've got over 80% indicating, in fact, pushing 90% indicating that they will most likely log into another webinar.
as opposed to the council meetings.
And how was it? Just saying?
Just saying.
Yeah.
Not taking it personally, people.
Actually, they can be quite lively. You know?
Well, they can.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
can. Actually, this goes back to, by the way, it's Keith again. This goes back to, in regards to question number 4, in regards to would you be inclined to participate in a webinar dealing with a technical subject in your field or soft skills topic. When you're dealing with people that are in a remote situation, this is a perfect example of how you can achieve proper CPDs without having to relocate yourself and go out of town for those issues.
Yeah, and I might add too, as we've got another extra couple of seconds here, that I would really, going back to the discussion around CPD, we're working very, very hard to get as much CPD information up on the website as possible. And you will find that increasingly organizations, other organizations, post-secondary, formal, public post-secondary, private institutions in particular, are offering quite a number of CPD training sessions via webinar. And so there's a great opportunity there. I think with that, you know, unless anyone else in the room has, just looking around to see if there's anything burning that people want to add in as we close off, I'll turn it back to the president of ASTT, Keith Trulson, to wrap up.
Thank you very much, John. So I guess this brings the webinar to a close. So I want to thank everyone for your participation and your time. I hope you all had a chance to have something to eat while we were chatting as well. Once again, feedback is welcomed at techinfo@asttbc.org. And the next council webinar, update webinar, will be held Wednesday, October 19th. So I hope you can join us for that. So thank you very much for joining us for this webinar, and we'll chat with you in October. Thank you very much for your participation.